pleasant day to everyone. Welcome to our reporting. Today, we will be presenting the topic 1, which is the nature and scope of microeconomics. Let's get started.
Microeconomics is the study of how individuals and businesses make choices when faced with limited resources. Nagfo-focus ito sa kung paano nakakaapekto ang mga decision na to sa production, sa pagpapricing ng product, and sa consumption nito sa mga specific markets. Imagine you're deciding kung bibili ka ba ng bagong iPhone or laptop, but you have a limited amount of money. Microeconomics helps us understand how you weigh your options, consider the price of each item, and ultimately make your decision. So overall, ang microeconomics ay parang gabay para sa mga tao para makapag-decide ng tama kahit limitado lang ang pera o resources nila.
Thank you, Desiree. And now, we will proceed to the topic macroeconomics. What is macroeconomics? Macroeconomics is a branch of economics that studies the overall performance, structure, behavior, and decision-making of an entire economy, focusing on aggregate variables like GDP, inflation, and unemployment. Unlike microeconomics, which focuses on individual businesses or consumers, macroeconomics takes a broader perspective. Understanding its key concepts is crucial for understanding the forces shaping our world. Let's break down 6 fundamental aspects. Gross Domestic Product, or GDP. This is the total value of everything a country produces. It's a key measure of economic health. Fiscal policy. This is how the government uses the taxes and spending to manage the economy. They can boost the economy during tough times or slow it down if things get too hot. Monetary policy. This is how the central bank controls the money supply and interest rates to influence the economy. They can make borrowing cheaper or more expensive to affect economic activity. Inflation. This is when prices go up. High inflation means your money buys less. Unemployment. This is the percentage of people looking for work but can't find it. High unemployment means a struggling economy. The next topic, entitled Managerial Economics, will be presented by Josh Peñamora and Ronnie Sr.
Managerial economics provides a framework for decision-making by applying economic concepts and tools to real-world business problems. By utilizing these principles, managers can optimize their decision-making process and improve the overall performance of their organizations. As it basically says, ito yung application ng mga economic principles and theories na nakaka-apekto sa galaw ng ekonomiya. Nagresulta ito ng mga desisyon na naangkop sa kasalukuyang suliranin ng ekonomiya at sa kaharapin pang sitwasyon nito. Managerial economics is a tool to effectively and efficiently manipulate resources through abundance or scarcity.
On the other hand, managerial economy can be termed or called as science. In a sense nga daw na na-fulfill niya yung criteria ng pagiging science. Define siya as a science of making decision and finding alternatives, keeping scarcity of resources in mind. So in science, we arrive at many conclusions and continuous experimentation. Kagaya ng sa managerial economics, maaari tayong magkaroon ng maraming conclusion sa kung ano ang nangyayari sa economics at kung ano ang dapat gawin at maaaring mag-implement din na magkaroon ng maraming experimentation to find alternatives to combat the constant changing of economic landscape. Like for example, laking impact yung mga naganap na war between countries, especially yung pandemic. So, bakit malaki yung impact nila? Kasi they played huge role in economic. Nung pandemic, nagamit yung managerial economic. Kita-kita natin kung paano siya nagamit to our country kasi, 'di ba? Sa kabila nung mga restrictions, patuloy pa rin na pilit na pinapagana or pinapaikot yung economics ng bansa at ng buong mundo. Patuloy pa rin na nagpapalitan ng mga resources, patuloy pa rin na nagpapalitan ng mga perishable goods yung mga tawag dito, ng money. So, hindi siya natigil. Nagkaroon lang ng decision kung paano i-combat yung changes na yun. So, in managerial economics, yung policies are formed after constant testing and training. So, nagkakaroon lang ng policies doon pagkatapos ng pagsusuri or yung mga testing nga. Tapos nagkakaroon ng training kasi yung mga policies na yun is nasusundan na lang rin. Nagkakaroon na lang ng panibago hango sa mga nauna. Tapos sa science nga, yung principles ng science is universally acceptable. And sa managerial economic, yung policies niya are universally applicable. So, hindi lang gagamitin ang magagamit ng managerial economics sa yung mga principle niya, hindi lang siya pwedeng gamitin sa hindi lang isa ang paggagamitin niya. Hindi lang buong mundo, hindi lang para sa bansa. Pwede rin siya may apply to yourself or to your small business. Like to yourself, kasi diba, it's a science of decision making nga. You have to consider variables at yung mga resources na magagamit mo to yourself. At yung mga meron ka, pwede mo magamit niya. Resources nga eh. Tapos, here are some example of theories and principles na nakita ko during research sa managerial economics. At kung titignan nyo nga, makikita nyo rin naman. Familiar ba kayo kay Henry Fayol's Principle of Management? So, hindi kayo makasagot. I assume yes, kasi most of us, or karamihan sa atin, or sa inyo, nag-take ng ABM, or na accountant, during senior high school. So, makikita siya, or mababasa natin yung principles niya sa course ng organizational management, or kung tawagin nung senior high school ay subject na organizational management. Si Henry Fayol sa isa sa contributors, meron siyang principle of management na naiambag at nailimbag na sa 5 libro. Makikita doon yung specification of given task and power inside the organization na nagagamit sa managerial economics. Kasi hindi pwedeng walang leader, pwedeng walang lead. Sila yung mga bumubuo or pinag-uusapan yung decision through observation nga rin and experimentation. Meron din tinatawag na bureaucratic management theory. Theory siya ni Max Weber. Lahat naman familiar kay Max Weber. So, sikat na sikat. Yung theory niya is ina-emphasize niya yung hierarchical structure. May clear rules, procedures, and chain of commands. So, when we say bureaucratic management theory, go ahead to explain. So, ganito siya. Ina-emphasize niya yung power inside the organization, kung sino yung may highest position, and then yung chain of commands, kung kanina ibababa yung mga commands na yun, kung paano dapat siya travel through workers and managers, like and yung tawag dito, yung procedure sa tinatawag, you comply sa manager, tataas niya, ganun, for efficiency nga ng organization, kasi hindi pwedeng from lower bracket, magdadirect ka sa top, you have to request or kailangan magpadala ng sa management mo or sa manager mo. Sa kanya mo muna i-rely yung tawag dito, concern. Kagaya lang sa structure natin sa microeconomics or kahit sa kay Sir Lim. Diba? Meron tayong supervisor, manager, and si Sir Lim. So, our concern, dadaan muna siya kay supervisor, then mapupunta siya kay manager. Then, mapupunta kay Sir Lim. Process. May procedure, may chain, may hierarchical. Then, may tinatawag din na incremental principle, which is personally, I call this, you have to protect the revenue. It's either tataasan mo yung revenue or i-reduce mo yung cost or yung resources na na-consume to create the revenue. That's the incremental principle. So, yun lamang ho. Thank you.
What is statistic? Statistic is a branch of mathematics that deals with the collection, analysis, interpretation, and presentation of numerical data. It helps in making informed decisions based on factual evidence.
Some features of statistics. 1. Aggregated facts. Statistics is based on collected data and not individual observation. Number 2. Numerically expressed. Data is represented in numbers for precise analysis. Number 3. Affected by multiple factors. Various influences impact data but accuracy is ensured. Number 4. Collected for a specific well-defined purpose. The data is collected for a specific well-defined goal. Number 5. Collecting data in a systematic manner. Information is gathered in an organized and structured manner. These features makes statistics a reliable tool for analysis and decision making.
Next is the important terms in statistics. 1. Population. A collection of persons, objects, or items of interest. Next is census. Gathering data from an entire population. Next is sample. A subset representing the whole population. And the last one is the parameter. A numerical measure describing a population.
Operations research, a quantitative approach that utilizes mathematical modeling and optimization techniques to analyze and solve complex decision-making problems within the organization. So, operations research po is gumagamit ng mathematical modeling and nag-optimize ng techniques para ma-analyze po and ma-solve yung problem sa isang organization. So, ang goal po dito is ma-improve yung efficiency, ma-reduce ang cost, and ma-enhance ang overall performance ng isang organization. So, throughout examination po and mathematical analysis, solution can be developed to help organizations make better and more effective decisions.
So, yung operation research po is applicable in any discipline, but today po is magpo-focus lang tayo sa kung paano ito nakakatulong sa businesses po. First, ang operation research is nakakatulong sa pagkakaroon ng production planning. By using the process of this, na-minimize po yung production cost without sacrificing the quality of the product. Next po is nagagamit siya sa inventory control. Operation research helps the business in forecasting demands. Through this po, na-maintain lang yung right stock levels and may iwasan po ang excess sa inventory. Next one naman po is yung pricing strategies. By applying operation research, na-optimize po yung pricing kasi na-analyze yung market trends, customer behaviors, and competition. Nakakatulong din po ito sa profit maximization while ensuring na nakaka-attract pa rin ito ng consumers. Last one po is operation research helps in allocating the resources. Dito naman po, masisiguro na yung limited resources such as money, manpower, and equipment is nai-utilize po ng tama. Operation research improves efficiency and reduces waste. Overall po, this helps any organization to make data-driven decisions na makakatulong para ma-enhance yung efficiency and magkaroon ng profit maximization.
Good day everyone, I'm Sophia Mauricio and I'm here to discuss or explain the importance of microeconomics. The significance of microeconomics is clear. It plays a crucial role in shaping economies and driving business growth. Without a strong understanding of it, we cannot effectively navigate the business world. This understanding also supports policymakers in creating effective policies to address economic issues like inflation, competition, and income distribution. Moreover, microeconomics help businesses and entrepreneurs evaluate competitive dynamics, assess consumer behavior, and anticipate market trends. It enables better resource allocation, ensuring that goods and services are produced efficiently and meet consumer demand. In turn, this improves the overall functioning of markets, promoting economic growth and a higher standard of living for consumers. In conclusion, Microeconomics is more than just an academic subject. It is a practical tool for addressing real-world challenges. That's all. Thank you so much po.
Now we're talking about the circular flow of microeconomics. So sabi dito, the continuous movement of money between household and firms within a market. So basically, isa siyang cycle na paulit-ulit lang na nangyayari dito sa market. So there are two types of market sa circular flow ng microeconomics. The first one is the product market. So una, siya yung household ay bumibili ng mga goods or ng services sa mga firms. So basically, siya yung mga binibiling products ng mga natin. So example natin, bumibili tayo sa mga grocery stores, sa mga magpapaservice naman sa mga salon, spa, and other services na nakikita natin sa paligid natin. So next naman is yung resource market. So sabi dito, firms purchase labor from households. So yung resource market is siya yung nag-hire ng mga employees sa mga sa atin. Kunyari na may mga company na nag-hire sa atin or naghahanap ng mga trabahador. So next naman is yung flow naman ng money sa microeconomics. Sabi dito, households to firms as payment for goods and services. So yun nga, yung mga binabayad natin or yung mga binibigay natin sa kanila na kapalit ng mga products and services na binibili natin. Next naman is yung firms to household. So magkabaliktad lang sila. Kumbaga may binibigay yung household sa firms, bibigay ng pera, binibili yung mga products. Then dito naman sa isa is yung firms to household. So yung mga sinusweldo natin, for example, yung mga wages and salaries and other factor payments pa na sinasabi. So yun lang po.
Now let us discuss the primary motives of a business enterprise. The motives of business enterprises are the driving forces that guide businesses in their operations, goals, and strategies. And they can be categorized into both financial and non-financial motives. Let us start off with the profit motive. Maximizing profit. The most common and central motive for most businesses is to generate profit. Businesses aim to increase revenue and reduce costs to achieve the highest possible profit. Profit is essential for the survival and growth of the business, rewarding investors and owners. Next is sustainability. Consistent profitability ensures the long-term sustainability of the business and allows it to reinvest in growth, technology, and workforce development. Second is growth and expansion. Market share. Many businesses aim to expand their operations, increase their market share, and enter new geographic markets. This growth leads to economies of scale, allowing businesses to lower costs and improve efficiency. Next is diversification. Expanding product lines or services can reduce dependency on a single market, mitigating risk and opening new revenue streams. Third is innovation and competitive advantage. Product development. Innovation is another key motive where businesses aim to develop new products or improve existing ones to differentiate themselves from competitors. Being innovative helps companies stay relevant in a dynamic market. Technological advancements. Embracing technology can help businesses improve processes, reduce costs, and enhance customer experience, which provides a competitive advantage. Fourth is customer satisfaction. Meeting customer needs. Businesses often seek to understand and meet the needs of their customers to build loyalty and enhance brand reputation. Satisfied customers lead to repeat business,
positive reviews, and referrals. Long-term relationships. Some enterprises prioritize building strong, long-lasting relationships with customers rather than a short-term transaction. And then lastly, satisfying shareholders and stakeholders. Return on investment or ROI. For businesses with shareholders, maximizing shareholder value and providing a high return on investment is a critical motive. This involves increasing stock prices, paying dividends, and maintaining a strong financial position. And lastly, stakeholder interests. In addition to shareholders, businesses also need to consider the interests of other stakeholders like employees, suppliers, customers, and the wider community. Overall, businesses may operate with one or multiple motives at any given time, while the primary goal for most is to maximize their profit. Motives related to growth, customer satisfaction, innovation, ethical responsibility, and employee well-being are increasingly important in today's business environment. These motives often interact and influence each other, shaping the strategies and decisions made by business enterprises.
So ayun, good day to each and everyone. I am Elinoelo Morales, and ang part ko sa reporting na ito ay ang overview of demand and supply. So ano nga bang supply and demand? Supply and demand is an economic model that describes the relationship between the quantity of a product that is available and the quantity that consumers want to buy. It is the main way that prices are determined in a market economy. So sa madaling salita, ang supply and demand ang nagdidikta kung ilan nga ba o magkano ang magiging presyo ng isang produkto sa market. So ang relationship between these two is that dapat lagi silang balance. Kasi pag hindi sila balance, malaki yung magiging epekto nito pagdating sa magiging takbo ng market. So, halimbawa na lang para mas maintindihan natin ng maigi. Sa market, ako lang yung tanging seller na mayroong binibentang smartphone. Like yung smartphone ko is iisa lang. And mataas ang demand nun. Mataas ang demand, maraming naghahanap kasi nga kailangan nila ng smartphones, ganyan. So, ako, as a seller, alam ko na ako lang yung meron sa market na yon. Syempre, sa dami ng demand, pwede kong gawin dyan is taasan ko yung price. Kasi nga ako lang yung meron nun, so hanapin yun ng mga consumers or customers. Kasi nga kailangan talaga nila ng smartphone. Kabaliktaran naman ito kapag ang mas mataas naman ang supply at ang demand o hindi na-meet ng demand yung supply. Ang mangyayari naman, it's either ang presyo is maging pamigay or mababa or completely itapon na lang yung produkto. Halimbawa na nito, kung nanonood kayo ng balita is yung sa kamatis, ganyan. 'Di ba dati nung hindi ka panahon ng kamatis like nung Pasko, sobrang mahal nun kasi sobrang dami nga naghahanap ng kamatis and mababa lang yung supply. Kabaliktaran naman yung nangyari nung hindi naman na-meet ng demand yung supply. Since dumami yung kamatis, ang nangyari, mababa na lang yung presyo ng mga sellers. So, ganun ang relationship ng supply and demand. So, sa point of view ng business, maganda kapag mataas yung demand sa isang supply. Kabaliktaran naman yun na kapag mas mataas yung supply nila sa demand, it's either maglit ito sa profit or loss. So, ayun lang po. So, susunod naman na topic is yung law of supply and demand na i-discuss naman sa atin ni Sturgeon and Adrian Santos.
And I'm reporting about market equilibrium. Market equilibrium represents the point where the quantity of a good or service demanded by consumers precisely equal the quantity supplied by producers. At this equilibrium price, the market clears, meaning all good offered are sold, and all consumers who desire that good at that price can purchase it. This is the state of balance where there is no excess supply or excess demand. Any deviation from this equilibrium point creates pressure to return to. For simpler explanation, I'll use this famous Facebook meme. As you can see, market equilibrium is when demand and supply meet in the middle, perfectly balanced as all things should be. And now, let's move on in the law of supply and demand. It is a fundamental economic principle that describes how the price and quantity of good in the market are determined. For demand, as the price of a good decreases, consumers' demand generally increases, and vice versa. This creates a downward sloping demand curve. For supply, as the price of a good increases, the quantity supplied typically increases, leading to an upward sloping supply curve. The interplay between these two forces determine the market price. High demand and low supply is equal to price increase, while low demand and high supply is equals to price decrease. This dynamic interaction drives the market toward equilibrium. For better understanding, a role play will show you how supply and demand determine prices. So please pay attention to how the market finds its balance.
Boring ah. Kagutom. Makabili nga. Paano sa'yo ngayon, man?
Yan.
Mahal naman!
Maganda na quality nito, sa akin mo na makukuha to.
Parang puro buto eh.
Sumubo ka sa ima.
Sasala lang ako. Tayo mo ako dyan ah. Madam! Baka naman, kunin mo na. Buo yan.
Baka ano pa?
Buo yan. Palagi kong ginagawa sa amin yan kahit walang tira.
Magkano?
200.
150 lang.
200 kailangan ko ngayon.
150 lang din ang budget ko
Ang
eh.
200 nga.
Sige na nga.
Ito yan.
Oh,
Ayun!
ayun.
Bomba na naman! Buti na reserve mo ako. Malinis. 200. Kailangan mo ba?
Oo ba to?
Oh, sinanla ako oven ng lola ko dyan, man. Bullshit to, ha?
Oo, makakasa ka sa akin.
Yan ang gusto ko! Shanghai!
Malakas kayo, may previous pa.
Siyempre naman! Sarap talaga, tol. The best ka talaga, man.
Sa akin mo lang makuha yun nun.
First bite!
Thank you, Lord.
Oh! Nakadonation na naman ako, man. Meron ka ba dyan?
Meron.
Ano?
300.
Nukuling ko ako kay Ellie, 200 lang. Sa kanya 200? Sa akin, 150. May ketchup. Mas mura pala dito eh.
Puta. Bigay ko 100. Dalawa sa usawan.
Oh!
Suka, sa ketchup.
Dito muna ako man ha. Mas baba eh. Bilangin mo pa. Uwi ko to kay Lola. Ano man? Meron ba ulit tayo dyan?
Dapat kinukulang sa supply. Napakatumal na.
Umay naman! Ikaw, Bert? Wala din. Punta si Ellie. Feeling ko meron si Ellie sa...
Boss! Kailangan ba dyan? Meron. Alam niyo namang di ako nawawalan.
Parang asset ah!
Alam mo.
Magkano yan?
Pero magkano ba kaya nyo? Ako lang meron nito ngayon sa talipa pa eh.
100!
350 palagi. 100. Saan? Wala kailangan eh. Ano naman? Asang bigla
Okay
eh.
naman.
Wala na ng tero eh. Kailangan na lang.
Good day everyone, I am Jasmine Suni and I will be discussing our next and final topic, elasticity. It is a general measure of the responsiveness of an economic variable in response to a change in another economic variable. So maraming economic variables pero ang gagamitin natin for this discussion are demand, income, and price. And there are three types of elasticity. And as we go further, i-explain natin ano yung pinagkaiba nilang tatlo. So the first one is price elasticity of demand. So dito sa price elasticity of demand, ang goal dito is ma-demonstrate or malaman natin paano nakakaapekto yung pagbabago ng price sa demand ng isang product or ng isang good. So ito yung formula niya. Percent change in quantity demanded over percent change in price. So next, we have here the 5 types of price elasticity of demand. Number 1, perfectly elastic demand. So any price increase will cause demand to drop to zero. So example dito. So let's say identical agricultural products. So kapag yung isang farmer, tinaas niya even slightly yung price, yung mga buyers, bibili sila sa another farmer. Number 2, relatively elastic demand. So, example naman dito is yung mga luxury items. So, kapag tumaas yung presyo, so konti lang yung bibili nila or konti lang yung bibili. So, number 3, unitary elastic demand. A change in price leads to a proportionally equal change in quantity demanded. So, number 4, relatively inelastic demand. So, example dito yung mga basic food items. So, kahit na medyo tumaas yung presyo niya, bibilhin pa rin siya ng mga tao kasi nga, necessity siya. Number 5, perfectly inelastic demand. So, example naman dito is yung life-saving medications. So, yung mga tao, bibilhin at bibilhin nila to kasi kailangan nila, regardless sa price. So, mayroon tayo ditong example. So, if the price of a coffee increases from 100 pesos to 125 pesos per cup, causing the quantity demanded to decrease from 100 cups to 80 cups, what is the price elasticity of demand? So first, we need to compute the percentage change in quantity. So, para makuha yon, so new quantity minus old quantity over old quantity multiplied by 100. So, yung new quantity natin is 80 and yung old quantity is 100. So, 80 minus 100 all over 100 multiplied by 100 is equal to negative 20%. So, next naman is yung percentage change in price. So, yung new price natin, 125 pesos. And yung old price, 100 pesos. So, 125 minus 100 all over 100 multiplied by 100 is equal to 25%. So next, apply the price elasticity of demand formula. So change in quantity over percentage change in price. So negative 20% all over 25% is equal to negative 0.8. So since the price elasticity of demand is 0.8, which is less than 1, so the demand for coffee is considered relatively inelastic. So, ibig sabihin na kahit nagkaroon ng price increase, nagkaroon lang siya ng slight decrease sa quantity demanded. And note po na always use the absolute value of the elasticity when interpreting the result. So, i-ignore lang natin yung negative sign. So, kagaya sa example natin, so, di ba ang result doon is negative 0.8. So, dapat yung sagot dito is laging naka-absolute value. So, magiging 0.8% na siya. And take note po na yung absolute value is applicable lang siya dito sa price elasticity of demand. So, sa other types of elasticity, hindi mo siya pwedeng gamitin. Number 2, cross price elasticity of demand. So, dito naman sa cross price elasticity of demand, ang goal naman dito is malaman kung nakakaapekto ba yung pagtaas ng price sa quantity demanded ng another product. So, dito malalaman natin kung yung dalawang product is substitute goods ba or complementary goods. So, ano nga ba yung pinagkaiba ng substitute goods at complementary goods? So, kapag sinabing substitute goods, ito yung mga goods na pwedeng gamitin na pwedeng ipalit sa isang product. So, for example, sa paglalaba, so pwedeng laundry powder or liquid detergent. And so, sa pagluluto naman, pwedeng butter instead of oil. And kapag sinabi naman complementary goods, ito yung mga goods na typically consumed together. So for example, cameras and memory cards, printers and ink cartridges. So meron siyang tatlong types, which is the positive, negative, and zero. So kapag positive yung result, ibig sabihin yung two goods na yun are substitutes. So meaning na kapag tumaas yung price ng isang good, tataas din yung demand for the other good. And sa negative, kabaliktaran lang siya. Kapag negative yung result, mag-fall yung two goods na yun as complementary goods. So kapag tumaas yung price ng isang good, yung demand naman for the other good will decrease. And dito naman sa zero, ibig sabihin na kahit tumaas yung price ng isang good, wala siyang impact sa demand ng another good. So ito yung formula niya. Percent change in quantity demanded of good A over percent change in price of good B. And meron ulit tayong example dito. So, video game consoles and video games. So, initially, console price, $300, video game sales, 1,000 units. And eventually, console price increases to $330. Video game sales decreases to 900 units. So, for this example, good A natin is yung video game, while the good B is the console. So first, kunin natin yung percentage of change in game sales. So yung new quantity natin, 900 units. Yung old quantity natin, 1,000 units. So 900 minus 1,000 all over 1,000 multiplied by 100 is equal to negative 10%. So next naman is yung percentage change in console price. So yung new price natin, $330, and the old price, $300. So 330 minus 300 all over 300 multiply by 100 is 10%. So yun, substitute lang natin siya. So negative 10% over 10% is equal to negative 1. So in this case, the cross price elasticity is negative 1, showing the two goods are complementary. Number 3, income elasticity of demand. So dito naman, ang goal is masukat yung change sa quantity demanded in reference sa change ng consumer income. So ito yung formula niya. Percent change in quantity demanded over percent change in income. So before anything else, ano nga ba yung pinagkaiba ng luxury goods, normal goods, and inferior goods? So kapag luxury goods, so ito yung mga designer handbags, designer clothing, fine jewelry. And kapag normal goods naman, ito naman yung mga groceries. Ito yung mga clothing na hindi kasing mahal ng mga branded. And yung inferior goods naman, ito yung pinapalitan ng tao habang tumataas yung income nila. So for example, so dati kung keypad lang na phone yung gamit ng isang tao, pero nung lumaki yung income niya, nag-upgrade na siya into touchscreen. So these are the 5 types of income elasticity. So number 1, high. When income increases, demand increases more than proportionally. So dito nag-fall yung luxury goods. Next is unitary. When income increases, demand increases in proportion. So dito naman nag-fall yung normal goods. Next is low. So when income increases, demand increases less than proportionally. Next is zero. So when income changes, demand does not change. Next is yung negative. So when income increases, demand decreases. Example dito is yung inferior goods. And meron tayong dito na example. So fine art or high-end watches. So sa initial situation, ang annual income is $100,000. And yung fine art purchases ay 1 piece per year. And over time, yung annual income is naging $200,000. And yung fine art purchases naging 3 pieces per year. So compute natin. So, una, compute muna natin yung percentage change in quantity demanded. So, yung new quantity natin is 3. Yung old quantity natin is 1. So, 3 minus 1 over 1 multiplied by 100 is equal to 200%. Number 2, percentage change in income. So, new income minus old income over old income multiplied by 100. So, yung new income natin is $200,000 and yung old income natin is $100,000. So, $200,000 minus $100,000 over $100,000 multiplied by 100 is equal to 100%. So, substitute lang natin. So, 200% over 100% is equal to 2. So, the income elasticity is 2. So, which is highly positive. So, this signifies that fine art or high-end watches is a luxury good. So, demand is very sensitive to income changes with a proportionally larger increase in purchases. And that concludes our report. Thank you.
Bili na tayo, bilis.
Kailan ba kailangan?
Bukas na. Kailangan natin eh. Oo. Tara tayo. Oh, pala nyo open. Tuwagod na lang. Awit naman, tanglay. Yun na, hindi guys, oh.
Pero ito maganda.
Dito na kayo.
Saan ba yan?
50 lang.
Maganda ba yan?
Siyempre, wala nang tawad yan. Wala nang tawad yan.
Wala nang tawad yan, te.
50 lang. Tingnan mo nga sa iba, kamahal-mahal eh. Nagreklamo ba kayo?
Matibay yan, te, ah.
Matibay kasi tibay ng mukha.
Ilan?
Ilan?
Magkano ba?
Ilan ba 50 ka pa tuloy? Sorry. Ba tawad yun?
Apat na, apat.
Eh kung gusto mo, bumili ka sa iba, mas mahal.
Magkano lang susumna ka kasungit? Huwag na bumili.
Sige, tayo sorry. Teka lang, di makuha eh. Ilan ba? Apat? O sakto, apat na lang. Hindi lang kasi kung ano.
Ilan yan, te? Ba't na tayo bumibili?
Oo, marami. Mas mura kasi siya kaysa sa iyo.
Tibay to, te, ah.
Thank you. Hindi na si Rati ah. Susumpa ka namin.
Ba't na, di matibay, te?
Thank you. Babalikan ka namin. Eh, babalikan ka namin. Salamat ah. Salamat. Paldo na naman. Anong hanap nyo?
May ID po kayo.
Wala na, sold out na ako eh. Sa iba na lang kayo bumili.
Malas naman yan.
Tinindalahan? Aba, hindi man daw pala itong ID list eh. Makapagtaas nga. Yung mga estudyante kong nakita dun eh.
Ano yun? Wala na ID list.
Sa kabila, meron.
Ay, hindi mo pa bala doon?
Uy, mga pogi ID list, hanap nyo? Ito,
ID list po.
70 pesos lang, 70 pesos. 70 isa oh. Hindi na kayo lugi dyan, kaso tatlo na lang pa, apat kayo eh. 70 bro, 70. Tatlo na lang to, paunahan na lang kayo.
30 na lang ang pera ko.
Aba, wala akong pakialam. Basta 70 pesos, tatlo na lang.
Walang
Dapat
O,
discount.
sino? Tatlo na lang, apat kayo. Ano? Sino bibili sa inyo? Tatlo na lang to, last time.
Wala na akong pamasahe. Kayo muna siguro bumili.
Ano yan? Dalawang tao sa isang beses.
Laki na lang.
Tatawag na lang.
Laki pa ng presyo.
Sumasamayan na lang.
Kuya, matahimik ka. Ano? Sino sa inyo bibili? 70
Ito, balik ka na
pesos.
isa.
Oh, yan.
Ito. Sagat niya. Ano yan? Wala ka.
Okay lang yan.
Wala ka! Wala ka na pumasok man.